Hi, welcome to our Thursday book launch. I'm Malika Albrecht, and I'm the founding editor of Redheaded Stepchild. We will reopen for submissions in August. So if you've ever been rejected as a poet, which I always think, who hasn't? Sometimes there's somebody out there that doesn't have that many, but we'd love to see you send us some work. And we are here tonight to celebrate Dawn Leas. I'm super excited about it. If you've never met her, she is fabulous. This is her third book, A Person Worth Knowing, and that is Foothills Publishing. And I'm going to do a brief bio, Dawn, before I turn it over to you. I do also want to ask, is there a place that you prefer people to purchase the book? Oh, Laura's already put it in there. Laura, you're so awesome.
Thank you, Laura. Yeah, that's fine right there.
Okay. And if someone did want an autographed copy, are you doing that?
Yes. They can contact me. I can put my email in the chat, and they can email me, and I'll do that right now while you're doing the bio.
Perfect. Thank you. So one of the things that I will say is the first time I became aware of her is Redheaded Stepchild published one of her poems. So that's how we first got connected. That's one of the great things about running a magazine. If you are someone who is an editor or publisher, if you don't mind putting your information in the chat section, that way people know what else, where else they might could send. So I'm going to finish just talking about, so this is her third one. The other ones are Take Something When You Go, which was Winter Goose Publishing. And then also I Know When to Keep Quiet, Finishing Line Press. Her poetry has appeared in Verse Virtual, Redheaded Stepchild, the Paterson Literary Review, Literary Mama, the Pedestal Magazine, and SWWIM, and elsewhere. She's a writing coach, manuscript consultant. So if you have a manuscript you've been working on and need an outside pair of eyes, Dawn is fabulous. And an arts educator. She's also back of the pack runner. I love that detail. Newbie hiker, saltwater lover, and the mom of 2 grown sons. I welcome you, Dawn. I'm so glad to celebrate with you, and I'm going to make you the spotlight. Reminder to everybody to please mute.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you for running this series. I think this is, it takes time and energy to put together a reading series and to keep it going. And I think when you started it, for the reason you started it, is just such a testament to who you are as a writer yourself, but also how you support other writers. And I'm all about writing communities and supporting one another instead of tearing each other apart. So I gravitate to the things that you do. So thank you so much for that. I am going to read the poem later on that was in Redheaded Stepchild, because I just love the journal. I'm telling all my friends, like, you submit to there, because it's a great journal to be in, and the whole premise of it, of being rejected elsewhere and finding a home there. So I am going to be reading the first few poems from A Person Worth Knowing. This is a collection that I worked on for probably 6 or 7 years, and I thought it was going to become a full length. And then I started looking at the poems, and I thought, you know what, I think it's complete where it is as the chapbook. And a lot of that realization came through several conversations that I had with Michael Zarnecki of Foothills Publishing. And I have to say, back when I first started writing poetry, maybe a couple years after, I was at an open mic and I heard somebody read from a Foothills book, and they had the book in their hands, and it was the hand-stitched thing that Foothills does. And I'm like, I would love to have a Foothills book someday. And then about 18 years after that, I do. So I'm very grateful to Michael and to Carolyn for giving this book such a good home. I am just going to show you the cover quickly, because the artwork is by Lee Pauling. She's a wonderful visual artist, and she was very gracious in letting me use the artwork, an image of the artwork on the cover. So that is Lee Pauling's work. So the poems in this book are all about people. And it started with one poem. I was driving to work one day, and I saw this woman on the side of the road, and I just wanted to know her story. And there was nowhere to pull over to stop and talk to her. So I started thinking about that, like how we intersect with people, whether it's in passing, whether it's actually in a conversation, and then how we might have missed opportunities to connect with people or to get to know them. So a lot of these poems are people that I do not know, and I've made up their backstory, what I think that who they might be. There are some poems in here of actual people that I know, and I've just kind of sprinkled in a few pieces of fiction in the poems as well. So to start, I'm going to read a poem about, it's called A Day Job. It's about a garbage person that I used to drive behind on my way to work. So it was like a weekly pickup, and I would see the same person on the back of the truck and just on my way to work. And then I just always wanted to know more about him. So this is what I imagined. It's called Day Job. Hanging on the back of a tired truck, he exhales streams of vapor at 7 a.m. Still wearing yesterday's skinny jeans and red Chuck Taylors, the required fluorescent vest pulled over his hoodie. He rubs the night from his eyes, then pulls gloves from his back pocket. He plays nights into these mornings at all the local places, floors sticky with beer, tables crowded with college kids, spending their minimum wages on dollar drafts and jukebox memories. Filled with waitresses carrying long hours of trays, looking for tips big enough to take them away from here someday. He plays his guitar electric and blue until last call, walks the blocks he works in daylight, home to a garage apartment to catch 3 hours of sleep. Jumping down, he takes his time walking to the curb, swings overstuffed green bags into the belly of the truck, pushes a button to crush and compact. He repeats block after block. At the end of the run, he climbs back onto his ride, spits last night's stale taste into the gutter. He tightens his grip when the truck lumbers around a corner, its pipes coughing black smoke, motor whining against the frosty morning. All right. And these couple that I'm reading right now are about people that I see in their workplaces. And this next one is called Invisible. It is based on somebody that I saw when I was in Atlantic City. I'm not a big casino person, but every year my cousins, my sister and I run either a 5K or a 10K in Atlantic City. And so it's a beach run, so that's why I go. But so being in the casino and kind of seeing things and just kind of observing, and this is one of those. And it's called Invisible. She begins her shift dancing in platforms on a low circular table. She stares at a muted game on the flat screen above the bar, takes a half turn as she sways arms above her head, reaching for an invisible pole. She closes her eyes. Music vibrates the floor. The semicircle of men below her drink beer from bottles, turn to talk to each other, eye her breasts in a tiny leather halter, let their gaze shift to game behind her, to their phones to text. Outside the bar, the casino lights flash, machines drone, empty eyes stare. Smoke climbs to the ceiling. Thousands are looking to get lucky. Right. And this one, again, is a real person, but somebody that I did not know that well, but she just left this impression on me. And I didn't write this poem soon after this encounter, but it maybe took me about a year, but I kept going back to her, and it's called How to Live Paycheck to Paycheck. Always wear hot pink scrubs on Mondays, holidays, and for monthly staff meetings. Remain calm when your coworker calls off with a full waiting room at 7:05 a.m. Cradle the phone on your shoulder as you place ID stickers on vials and tell your daughter she can't wear shorts to school in December on a day forecasted for snow. Sing Peter Gabriel's Red Rain while inputting diagnostic codes into the computer. Slide the needle in effortlessly while telling the patient she's lucky to have a 14-vial doctor, one who wants to know why. Unknot tourniquet one-handed, switch full vial for new one when explaining daughter's gifts this year are on layaway. Winter coat, school clothes, one video game, that's it. Apply pressure to stop the bleeding, and when gauze soaks red, assure the patient, yourself, it will stop eventually. Okay, and I will read one more from the book before I move on to some others. This is a triolet, and I don't often write in form, but I had read a triolet that I fell in love with. So it just it inspired me to try one on my own. So this one is called Reiki Master. From bodies, she sees words float. Is my third eye blocked, its dreams unsung? Hands hovering, she hums an antidote. From bodies, she sees words float. Anger frozen in my throat, fighting for freedom to burn the tongue. From body, she sees words float. Is my third eye blocked? Its dreams unsung. Okay. Thank you. So I want to read a couple from my other books because I am a twin. So, and I have two sons, and I always try to treat them equally. Like my mom always treated us equally. So even though I know these books are not living beings, they are in a way for me. They're like they're my book babies. So I never want to leave the other books out. So I'll read a couple from each one. So I'll go first to I Know When to Keep Quiet. It was my first chapbook put out by Finishing Line. And when I was picking poems to read today, I decided that I was going to go back into these two collections and pick poems that I don't often read. And it was a lot of fun rediscovering poems that I just have not read out loud in a long time, or one of them I don't even know if I've ever read at a reading. So I'm not reading the ones like that I usually go to, like my comfort ones, right? That I'm like, oh, I really like this one and I'm going to this. So we'll see how it goes. And this first one, my book, I Want to Know When to Keep Quiet, travels between states. It goes from New Jersey to New Orleans, Louisiana, to Texas, and to Pennsylvania. And that's the kind of the path that we took when I was a child growing up in geographic moves. And this poem is set in Texas. And it's called Ford F-150, 1980. I toe the pedal. Too much gas sends the sky blue pickup lurching forward. From the corner of my eye, I see him grimace, knees pressed against dash, impatience gone. Dad says, ease, easy, brake now, slow down, while tugging at his long beard, blowing Captain Black from his pipe. Eyes just above wheel, I steer, turn, brake, start again. Through tall grass, inching closer to the field's edge, Dad's limit. So I was 10 when I first started to learn how to drive, and we were in a field in Texas. So, all right. And this one is set in Pennsylvania. It's about a small park in the city of Scranton, and it's called Pretzel Park. In the fall, when night comes early and the air is chilly, we run around Pretzel Park, a maze of concrete and bushes in a neighborhood built on the backs of coal and Irish clans. Couples French kiss under 100-year oaks, while in the deepest corners, hands slip between shirt and skin. I chase but don't catch a Greenridge boy. But that night, I dream of giving birth to a red-haired Catherine Mary, a blue-eyed Bridget Ann, a dark, curly-haired Patrick Michael. I dress them in starched uniforms and walk them to St. Clair's. In the morning, I kneel at Mass, pray to catch the right Greenridge boy, continue the tradition. So just a little bit of my high school years there. Take Something When You Go is from Goose Publishing. It came out in just around this time of year in 2016, and it's poems about relationships and about empty nest. Both of my kids were, for most of these poems, were high school years and going off to college. So yeah, just trying to sort through all of that. We were talking about baby birds, and we actually, the summer my younger son was going away to college, we had a bird's nest on the front porch. And I just thought that just was a fitting metaphor for what I was going through. I was watching the mom send off her babies too. And this is a poem I don't think I've ever read at a reading. I chose this poem because it's about the Susquehanna River. And this week is the 50th anniversary of the Agnes flood, the 1972 Agnes flood in Wilkes-Barre that devastated this area. And there is a lot of history in this area. I think a lot of how people approach life and their attitudes, like if they lived through the flood, it has stayed with them these 50 years. So this is a poem about a flood in 2011. It's one of the towns close to here that is not protected by the levee system that they put in after the 72 flood, and I had a friend who was affected by it. So this poem was inspired by her. It's called Current. Months after the flood, we drive along Wyoming Avenue. Winter clouds clothe, then unclothe a half moon. The wind nudges the car, its chill bites for the first time in this unseasonable season. Mounds of debris still line the curb, block after block. Where were the walls of dirt, grass, and rock when this town needed them? When the heat of summer still clung to September and the river left its banks? I know families who watched venomous water barge in, an intruder who upended daily life, stole heirlooms, clogged furnaces, left behind swollen walls and a carpet of mud. They trudged through sludge to search for remnants of their lives, now divided into before and after. A grandmother's sodden fur coat, children's muck-smeared artwork, kitchen chairs, their legs bruised. At each red light, I stared at the mounds, an antique dining table mildewed and warped, bikes with rusted tire spokes, a swing set reduced to tinker toys that mourn the past. I imagine the water's path, its brown rage carrying trees and buildings, downsized to firewood as they hit the bellies of bridges. One house's porch shimmers with white lights, while its neighbor is a ghost, its insides hollow and drying out. And this is another one that I might have read a few times out loud, but it's been a very long time. And it's called Sinew. If I knew you would sprint across the tracks, jump the crumbling stone wall, run through the Victorian's weed punctuated yard, climb the rusted fire escape, push up my bedroom window, its aging panes rattled by freight train rumble, just enough to slide in your runner's body and tuck me under you by the light of the midnight moon, then I wouldn't have had to cry so many years over my fall from grace. So now I'm going to read a few new ones. And the first one that I want to read is the one that was in Redheaded Stepchild. So I'm excited. I think it was like the perfect home for this poem. So thank you so much. I woke up at 3 a.m. thinking I was somewhere else. The air hasn't taken the turn toward fall quite yet. I want to be a tree blowing in wind. I want to be the last leaf to fall, bright orange. No, I want to be crimson. Clouds are moving against the jet stream. A white-gray sky carries hidden stories. Maybe if I had had a daughter, I would know the secrets of this land. Mom of grown sons, I often stand on the sidelines. How often can a heart skip a beat and still go on? Sometimes I can hear the ocean in the mountain wind. Maybe the air has turned. Maybe I can no longer feel variations. Remember Etch-a-Sketches? A quick shake would erase a life. I miss cardboard playhouses, Zoom, the TV show, and the electric company. My mom's fried chicken, the greasy paper bag she used to bread it. I can see the leaves are dimming before their turn. The water tower is dismantled. I pray the church steeple doesn't topple. And again, thank you, Malika, for publishing that. I love that it found a home in Redheaded Stepchild. All right. This next poem I wrote during a workshop. A friend of mine, Craig Chury, runs a wonderful generative workshops where he just reads to us and we just write. It's just really free flowing. It really just gets words down on the page. And he does it weekly, but I couldn't go every week. And it was at a time where I'm like, I had work and other commitments. And then I would be like, well, but they'll be back. They'll be there when I come back. And then one of our members died unexpectedly last July. And so the week after she died and we met, I wrote this poem. It's called, How Long Will It Take You to Learn That Life Doesn't Wait? For Marge. Sunflowers bow and you weep at the beauty of nothingness. You run fast and hard through the field, kick off your shoes and feel the love of summer dirt. That's right, let it bathe your feet, find its way under your toenails. The angels applaud. Wind pushes your hair away from your eyes, trails it behind your body. Feel the energy the closer you get to nowhere. The moon's gone on vacation. You find your way into and through tall green stalks, speaking what you cannot hear. Keep going. Straight to the center of the earth. Your broken heart is there. It's patient, waiting for you to pick up the sea glass buried where you never expected, cradled in mountains, kissing sky, far inland from salt water. The river turns its eyes on you. You stand at its edge barefoot. You'll never forget the depths of its cold. You always assumed everyone would be there when you returned. Okay, I'll do one more poem, and because then we'll do the Q&A and the open mic. Is that okay? All right. So this is a poem called Good Girls. Good girls learn the difference between second and third bases from older girls while listening to tapestry in the back bedroom of a chilly duplex. Parents' hushed talk floating up through the floor vents. Good girls write Mrs. Hudak with fancy curlicues in the back of their mead binders. Marry first loves. Good girls don't play spin the bottle, hearts racing in the back of a coat closet. Don't even think about strip poker. Good girls don't do 7 a.m. walks of shame or hang on front porches with frat boys, but go to confession on Saturday afternoons. Receive communion on the tongue, not in palm of hand. Good girls sew Power Ranger Halloween costumes, bake from scratch, chaperone first grade field trips to the Baltimore Aquarium. Good girls don't accelerate through yellow lights, don't allow preteen sons to grow hair past shoulders or listen to Metallica. Good girls don't long for afternoons alone, apartments in the city, dream jobs on the West Coast, endless nights of dancing at concerts, the smell of men who are not their husbands. Thank you. Thank you, Malika.
Thank you so much. People, you can unmute and clap because I know we kind of all want to. And I do want to repeat some of the stuff, Dawn, that was going on in the chat section, because
Okay.
I think we start to really get close to some of the amazing things about your work. The first thing I wanted to say is a lot of us put in here the last lines. You know, and other people were commenting on that. Yeah, Laura, you like the smell of men who are not their husbands. I like the closer you get to nowhere. Yeah, great last lines is what Marjorie put. And I think Laura had done, yes. And Dawn said, the variety of topics is stunning, as well as your observation of life. And that was something, Dawn, I don't think I love that you did a selection of poems from different books and the newer poems. And I was just struck by your exacting ability to bring up details. And I was seeing that other people were finding that as well. There's something very contemplative with how you notice a variety of details. I really love that.
Thank you.
Does anybody have a question that they would like to ask Dawn? If not, I'm going to go to some other things that I saw. Julian wrote these poems all settled beautifully.
Thank you.
In that, so, you know, the other thing I noticed was, you know, just such strong titles, the endings always hit home in such a lovely way. So I wanted you to talk, I mean, you kind of talked where some of the poems were born from, Dawn, but I had curiosity with how you edit, how you approach your work.
Okay. So more recently, within the last couple of years, when I start a poem, it is often kind of a prose free write. And then I go in and I pull the lines out of that. And that's something, I have a friend who did that on a consistent basis. And I thought that's just really interesting. And so, especially when I was in my friend Craig's workshops, I decided I was going to do that there. And that just actually came naturally when I was drafting poems there, that was the way it came out. And then I would go back into and pull the lines out, kind of pull the most important words that I saw. So I also have two friends who are wonderful poets, and the three of us meet on a monthly basis, and we share poems and give each other feedback, and then use that to kind of ignite our revisions as well. So I always think that when you have a small group of other writers that you really trust with your work and approach the critique and the revision suggestions in the same way, it can really bring out magic in your work and in your writerly friendships as well. And the thing with the last lines, I went to graduate school when I was in my mid-30s, and I had wonderful mentors. And I don't know what it is about my last lines. I think writing last lines for me is one of the easier parts of writing. Like there's lots of other hard parts like getting started, but I don't finding my last lines. And even if it's not found in the first revision, I am really good with just lopping off lines or whole stanzas in the revision process and just saying, oh, that's not the, the right ending, this is, and I'll read them out loud. Sometimes in my critique group, one of the other people will say, I think the poem ends here. Or I have one friend, she's wonderful, saying, I think that last stanza should be up at the top, or so, like moving things around to the stanzas. But and I like writing titles, but I don't often do them until the poem is done. I'm sure everyone has a different process, but that's definitely for me. I kind of wait until the end and kind of go into the poem to kind of pull something from that. So I think for me, when I'm approaching writing, the hardest part is just kind of getting something down on the page. I actually love to revise. Like I call it tinkering when I'm teaching 4th and 5th graders. And it's just going in and pulling things out, moving things around. I've gotten better. I think the more you write, the more you revise, it just gets easier to take out the things. Even if you love them, it's not serving the poem. And then I just save them. Like I have I have folders on my computer where I just kind of put things that I like and save them for later.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much for like really walking us through how you approach poetry. And I do think that having, 1 or 2 or 3 people that you turn to gives us a whole nother sounding board. And that synergistic thing of being in the company of other writers is beautiful. It's so important. You talked a little bit about how that one class, you would just free write, get stuff down. Is that something, how rigorous of a writer are you? Do you write daily, or what's your approach?
I wish I could say I do not write daily, and I don't preach that. Like when I'm teaching other people, I say, you listen and learn about how other people approach writing and try different things on, and then make it your own. Because if other people say the only time to write is 4 to 5 a.m., like that might work for one person, but not the other. And then I also will say, sometimes your writing routines change. Like you might get into a writing routine, but then for whatever reason, another life responsibility comes in and you can't write, every Saturday from 9 to 9. So just find 15 minutes a day. So I kind of give myself that leeway too. And I often will get the seed of a poem while I am moving, like especially when I'm walking or running. So I always carry my phone, and then I'll sit down on a bench, or I've sat down on a sidewalk to just start writing a poem note. And somebody came out of their house and asked me if I was okay. I think she thought I had fallen. I'm just like, no, I'm just writing. And then she just kind of looked at me funny and went back inside. So for me, it's more, I don't know if you want to call it an organic, like I don't have a set writing time each day. I'll pull a poem out to revise, but I don't write every day. So I guess that's the bottom line of that question. Yeah.
No, but I also love that there's something connected to movement and what, jogs ideas or poem seeds. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What a great story is what Marjorie just wrote. Let's see, somebody did write a question here. Okay. Amber asked, were there any strangers who served as inspiration for your most recent book who you had the opportunity to meet? Any favorites?
So the one, How to Live Paycheck to Paycheck, that like I was getting blood drawn. So I actually met that person. But that took place, I think, in 2014. And, the book wasn't published till 2021. And there's another book. I had braces when I was in my early 40s. And I had this one dental hygienist. She was taking impressions for my retainer. And she's like, what do you do? I'm like, well, I'm a writer, I'm a poet. And she's like, oh, well, who do you read? And I'm like, well, who do you read? And she said, well, I read like Neruda and Rilke and in Spanish and German, and then I translate it into English. And I'm like, well, maybe you need to be giving me a reading list instead of like the other way around. And so there are people like that I met that have just really stayed with me. And I often that was like 10 years ago too. And I want to go in that doctor's office and just see if she still works there. So I could share the poem with her, because she was just it's like, and if she hadn't asked me a question and I had not engaged in that conversation, she would have just did the mold on my teeth and I just would have, left and gone on my way without finding out about her. So there's been several that I've met, but not any that I have encountered after the book was published. So I sometimes think about that, how it would be neat to be able to talk to them about it.
I think that's fabulous. And Marjorie wrote, do it. And I was just going to remark on, another thing, I think that openness that you have interacting with people, but I wondered about the fact that you are so precise with your details, Dawn. Is that something that is just kind of a way of being in the world? Do you think that's part of your personality, or is that something in editing that you really pay attention to all the senses?
Yeah.
I'm just wondering about, is that organic or is that something you consciously work on?
Yeah, I think I notice things. I am relatively shy. I'm relatively an observer. I can sit in the middle of a party and just be happy just watching everyone. So I think I do notice details, and there's this feeling, and it's just so weird to explain this way, but when I'm in a situation, it's not sometimes it's not, I'm going to write a poem about this, but sometimes this feeling just rises, if it's a conversation or something's going on and I'm like, oh, this could be a poem. So then I think I start to really pay attention to the details. But I love details, and I love reading descriptive details and really those sharp sensory details in other poetry. So I think I'm drawn to it. So I just try to infuse my poems. And, in graduate school, I had two mentors who were very rooted in that and not rooted in a lot of, vagueness. And so I think they trained me toward that as well.
Well, it's lovely because it really brings us as the audience into it. I mean, for example, the flood poem, I mean, just detail after detail was just so exact and so powerful. And it really was evocative for me to hear you read it. And, having lived in New Orleans, and gone through floods there, it really reminded me of that experience.
Sure.
Have I missed any questions? And would anybody like to unmute and ask a question directly while I double check the chat section to make sure that I didn't miss anything? Yes. Okay. So Julian said the poem about the garbage man is very fine. I'm still thinking about it and want to read it again. I'll buy this book for sure. Well, yes, Julian, I agree with that. Yeah. And Melinda wrote, I too love the details. I think a lot of us were really taken with that. So, it sounds like you're not surprised that we notice. And that is good. I mean, if that, it really is something that draws us, Dawn, and makes a poem memorable, where we're going back to it in our minds because those details were so exacting. Marjorie wrote, like the combination of seldom read and new poems. Yeah, I felt very honored that we got to hear that. And y'all have no doubt why I chose the poem she read that Redheaded Stepchild took, because it was amazing. When I send this chat section, you'll be able to see some of the lines that resonated with different people.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, fighting for freedom to burn the tongue. That resonated with several different people. The triolet was so lovely. Okay, looks like I didn't miss any questions. So if y'all would like to unmute, we can thank Dawn for really giving us a treat tonight. And I love that you have book babies.
Hello.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Laura. I just appreciate you all being here, and just I love being part of a literary community where we can be from all different parts, not in the same room, but in the same space. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, I agree with that. And before we started early on, Scott, Dawn and I were talking. I also got to go and talk to her class that was working on their literary magazine. And you've been on Dawn's list for someone who might be a good visitor.
You were talking print?
No, we were talking virtual. We were talking online, but I think I was
I meant that Malika was talking about a print publication.
Oh, not for me. Dawn, yeah, no, I don't want to go print. I like the fact that when I make a mistake and the author says, oh, I noticed there wasn't an accurate space between these two stanzas, I get to go fix it. My last experience with print journal was, back in the day where you actually had to like do a lot of like physical things to create a print journal. And there was a typo that bothered me. It still bothers me. I still can't think about it. I just cannot do it.
Well, you
So,
got to block those out of your mind because there ain't no such thing as perfect.
Yeah, well, that's just sucky. But Dawn was saying that she, you'd be a good person to interview about working on a literary magazine. And her students were so engaging. It was a lot of fun. So I'm going to encourage you to put your, to connect when y'all can. And I do want to go back to the chat section and remind everybody the direct link to buying the book is right there. And Laura wrote it not once, but twice. Thank you, Laura. You're so awesome. I will put it down again. So it's the very last thing. So as we move to open mic, who would like to read? I didn't see any, I don't think I missed any messages, but we can just round robin it, just allow people to step in. Marjorie, you want to read from your award winner? I'm not sure how your throat's doing though. If you rather not, that's fine.
I think I'll pass tonight. Thanks.
Feeling
Actually, I read from some of that when I was on with you, a couple weeks ago or last
I
couple months
know,
ago.
but we never get enough. That's one of the great things about coming to open mic. I'm going to say, hey, could you read from this book? Regina or Laura?
Well, I could read. I'm not in a place where I can unmute the video. I could do poetry radio.
I am fine with audio only. And it's such a
Okay.
great picture, Regina. I'm happy.
Yes, and that is me. That's right. Okay. Hold on
Truly,
just
it is.
Okay. Can you still hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Malika, you will maybe you'll relate to this because this actually came out of an event. The first time I met you when we went to
really?
see Joy Harjo.
Yes.
So this is entitled When I Feel the Ancestors Stirring and I Don't Even Know Their Names, the day after Joy Harjo came to town. Separated from this common life by ancient physical deaths, I envision them stepping through portals, strong and brown, fierce, gentle, free, resolved to find me, my oldest connections to this broken land, their individual names lost from lips for years, lost to me, profound absence of sacred sites that bare feet and soul skins trod from generation to generation, lost to me. But my ancestors are still dancing, and I don't even know their names stripped from my tongue and thrown into the chasms of greed and fear and mockery and time. Others insisted that my lines forget them and bury their voices. They moved them place to place, trailing tears as they went out from all they knew. My ancestors are stirring, and I don't even know their names. Many bodies on battlefields, many bodies as battlefields, and I don't even know their names. These, my people, hunkered down, this I know, mixed their medicines, this I know, lost and found love, this I know, seeded me in their bellies, this I know, past shrouded unnamed stories, practices, this I know, left hints in my blood, this I know. Died to some old ways, to live in new nights, days. This I know. Today they swirl above my head, calling me, imploring me to look up, know their presence, feel their ancient names. The others, they say the Croatan are gone. They say the Tuscarora left this land, marched away. They said the Machapunga assimilated. They say a great many truths. They say a great many lies. Yet I am here, holding on to blood traces, mitochondrial DNA, autosomal mysteries, words of my great-grandfathers, mothers, ancestors, whispering through generations. They who are stirring above my head, encircling me, I hear them, I claim them, I write them. They are stirring in me beside many others. I don't even know their names.
Oh, Gina.
Ah,
Yeah, you got a
Thanks,
lot of us
Regina.
writing wow
you.
in there. Yeah, you know, it's lovely, Regina, and I'm so glad I was there. You know, reference that. And it's interesting, my daughter, my youngest, when we left, she said there were so many people on that stage. And for a moment, I was like, it was just joy. And then I realized she just meant, you know, all that lineage, you know, all that. And it sounds like you really felt that and picked up on that too.
Yeah, you know, I descend from the names that I don't know.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, homage to them.
Yep. Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
You've got some responses in the chat section,
Oh,
Regina.
okay.
Would anybody else like to read? Wow.
come on, Scott.
Yeah, you got a new book. We can hear
Right?
it.
I can wait till next week.
I was going to say it's a preview for
Okay,
next
we'll be
week.
there.
Oh, Dawn, you left us all speechless. That's awesome.
It was a beautiful poem.
Yeah.
I love the sound quality in it.
Yes. Yeah, it was. It was gorgeous. And the repetition
Repetition.
kind of starts to be haunting to me. And I don't even know their names.
Yeah,
Yep.
I agree with that too.
Scott, is this Scott from Main Street Rag?
Yes.
Yes, this is Regina. I don't know if we've ever spoken, but thank you.
Well, I think I just published you not long ago, did I
You
not?
did. You did. That's
Yeah.
my thank you.
Isn't that one of the beautiful things about, you know, about being in community and just that collaborative thing that a lot of us are writers, but also, you know, do magazines and have opportunity to publish poets that we admire. And I think we're very fortunate for this community.
Yeah.
And, you know, Dawn, you were saying something in the beginning, you know, about doing this book launch, and it has been like my touchstone, you know, on throughout the week. The Thursdays become my highlight. But I was thinking about, like, before we started, when we were just kind of chit chatting, you were checking in with one of your friends saying, well, you're sending out, how's the work going? And I thought, you know, that's the community builder. It's just intuitive in your nature to uplift, encourage other writers. And I watched that interaction and thought, yeah, this is, you know, why I am drawn to certain people, because I have a deep respect for the fact that they want other writers to do well. They have this sense of community that's really lovely. And I think our Thursday group has been very much like that. Scott, you got a private message with the same question and a thank you. Oh, that's so funny, Marjorie.
Well, you know,
did too?
it's funny because, okay, I'm sitting here playing around. I got rid of my iPad. So I wanted to see if I even have a camera on my computer, which I don't. And so I'm doing this on my phone, and I saw that somebody sent me a message, and I'm looking at this and I'm like, where the hell am I going to find the message on this? Everything's so small anyway. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'll find it afterward when I'm not covering my face or anything.
Yeah, it was for me.
So I'm glad you put it in the chat section. Otherwise, he might not have known, Marjorie. It's so funny. Yeah, it is different with the phone, like how to get into the chat section.
Well,
So-
I you know, everything's so small anyway, you know, that it's just a phone, you know. I touch several things at one time. So
That's the problem with, you know, large hands and, you know, not just like a little pointer. That's awesome. Regina just said these Thursday night poetry readings bless my whole soul. Oh, thank you, Regina. I'm glad you come. You know, my sense is because we have the time, Dawn, if you don't mind, would you read another poem?
Sure, I will. Yay. So this poem's about my grandmother, and but I do play a little bit with the details. I fictionalize it a little bit, but it has her essence in it, so I want to read it. It's called Pears. She collects size 5 pumps, black as the coal her husband lugs to the surface every afternoon. She pairs them with pencil skirts to wear to mass and frequent meetings with Sister Anne regarding her 5 sons. Then in the evenings to show houses to couples with smaller families and bigger bank accounts than her own. She saves her 3-inch peep toes for Christmas and weddings, watches her granddaughters teeter in them on the red living room carpet. Years later, her youngest daughter forgets to pack her collection, sending her to assisted living with slippers and white keds. At her funeral, daughters and granddaughters process through rows of marble headstones, wobbling over gravel, sinking into wet grass, in stout rectangles, stalactite stilettos, wedges and platforms, leather Mary Janes, soft as whispered words, cranberry patent slingbacks. Later, they toss them onto sand, a collage with black size 5s at its center, run to the water's edge. Their silence cut by a gull's call, hiss of gray waves over bare feet.
Oh, wow, it's beautiful.
Thank you.
And again, I don't know who walks away from that not just struck by the exact details.
Thanks. I had the honor of being with my grandmother when she passed away. It was my mom, my oldest aunt, and my sister. The 4 of us were with her. And after she passed away, we had been up all night with her. And we went to the mall, of all places, to go to a Payless. And I was the one who went in to buy black patent leather pumps for her to be buried in. So yeah, I'm like, she's not going in the keds.
Yeah, not the keds.
Yeah,
It
not the
can't be
keds.
the keds.
No, it's got to
Yeah.
be, yeah. So thank you.
That is beautiful. And you know, just there's something in the details that bring up to me the sense of the depth of the feeling. That's kind of what is holding a lot of the emotional impact of your poems, is these details for me. I don't know if other people are experiencing it, but that's what brings them to another level in my heart, in my body. Because there's some, yeah, love the shoe story is what Melinda, yeah, that is gorgeous. Well, thank you for doing that. So
Thank
my
you.
sentence is, we get to say thank y'all for being here. Dawn, thank you for treating us to such a wide range of topics and powerful poems. And I love that you read from all your book babies, and everybody who did open mic, thank you. Yeah. Love the juxtaposition of the emotion with the physical details is what Kimberly wrote.
Yeah.
I'll send the chat section to you. I'll
Thank you. I
also
appreciate
send the link for the video. Be well. Thanks, everybody. Next week, we will be celebrating with Scott. And Brandy just wrote, thanks so much. I enjoyed this greatly. All right. Bye, guys.
Thank you so much, everyone.